Approach control, this is Trekyards, ready for a docking maneuver.
Trekyards is clear to dock.
Lock on.
Systems locked.
Spacedock, you have control.
Affirmative, Trekyards. Welcome home and enjoy the show.
Trekyards confirms. Stand by umbilical and gravitational support systems.
Yes, sir. Moorings activated, all systems standing by.
And that, my friends, is how you start a Trekyards episode about Starbase 1. Or Earth Spacedock, if you prefer. Not really 100% sure on what the proper name for it is, as it tends to change from source to source. But it's a truly impressive complex and something all of you have been asking to see. And this is actually the last of our Indiegogo requested episodes. And this one is from Michael White, a.k.a. Sacklist, who comments on all of our videos. Sorry it took so long, Sacklist, but we were far from Earth, so getting back here for our system swap and upgrades took a little bit of time, but here we are. So now that we are fully docked and secured, let's board and find out all about this fantastic complex.
This station, or complex, is really, truly impressive size-wise, having a diameter of approximately 3.8 kilometers and a height of 5.5 kilometers. This station would truly be an amazing thing to see. Now, these sizes are as it appears in Star Trek 3: The Search for Spock, and are based on the original size chart for that film. Standard complement of personnel was 101,435, which included 51,430 officers, 25,103 ensigns, a lot of ensigns, 900 troops, 24,000 passengers and visiting personnel, and in an emergency situation, an additional 36,000 people could be housed on board her.
Now, there were a total of 600 small docking ports, 180 total shuttle bays, which included 100 small shuttle bays, 50 medium bays, 20 large bays, and 10 super bays. Standard shuttlecraft complement was 2,763. Now, to break those numbers down, goes a little something like this. 285 work bees, 384 travel pods, 69 aquatic shuttles, 333 light shuttles, 600 standard shuttles, 120 heavy shuttles, 600 cargo shuttles, 90 assault shuttles, 90 killer bees, and not the ones that buzz around and, sting you, 90 light fighter craft, 90 standard fighters, and finally 12 heavy fighters. Wow.
Wow. Get your breath back from that one, Stuart. Wow. This style of Starbase had 12 constructed. They were almost identical scattered through the Federation, although Earth Spacedock is largely unarmed, and we'll discuss that a little bit later on. These other bases did need to be armed, however, and these versions, depending on their location, had up to 200 standard phaser banks, same style as seen on the Constitution-class vessel, in addition to 40 high-output megaphasers and up to 20 photon torpedo bays. A total of around 4,000 torpedoes could in fact be stored and ready to be fired if needed on some of these stations that were located in enemy hotspots, or if the ship was or the station was under attack. That's a serious armament.
The overall shape of the station can be described as a mushroom. Administration offices, as well as observation domes for recreation, are located on the very top, with the main Starship docking areas and repair facilities located just below that, occupying the bulbous-shaped section at the top of the structure. Immediately below that consists of a main deflector array, and on the underside of the main docking area, on some versions of this design, are actually 8 large emergency dry dock doors that can be opened to evacuate ships quickly in case of emergency. The cylindrical portion leading down to the next bulbous section gives us our cargo bay areas, smaller shuttle and auxiliary craft bays, and fabrication facilities, as well as warehouses for the manufacture of Starship replacement parts, and smaller Starship construction bays. As a matter of fact, in the late 24th century, one of the main uses of this station was to act as a minor shipyard. Several classes of Starship vessels that were commonly constructed here included the Sabre class, as well as the Norway class. Full Starship assembly, of course, took place in the main docking area in assigned construction or dry dock bays. But the main Starship component production and partial assembly actually took place on the lower docks, and then delivered via cargo elevator or cargo transporter up to the main docking area for final major component assembly into finished starships.
The lower bulbous-shaped light structures hold the shops, theatres, vendors, and various other commercial and civilian facilities, including a very large and substantial arboretum and park areas. The strange protrusions just below this section are the energy accumulators. Below this section are located more research bays and additional cargo areas, and finally the lower spherical section contains the communications room and equipment with the primary communication antennas and arrays at the very bottom. So that is just a quick run through, details are coming up. But first, and we hate to start off any episode with some serious sizing issues, but it must be addressed straight away. There is a sizing problem that does creep up almost immediately based on the fact this station also appears in TNG.
Yeah, we actually see the Enterprise NCC 1701D entering space dock as well. So do we assume that the doors have actually been widened by that era? Or perhaps those are doors that are on the other side and are bigger to accommodate larger vessels that we actually never saw in Star Trek 3? Because it's clear that looking at a few actual shots from the movie, the doors that the Enterprise entered and departed from actually aren't even large enough for the Excelsior to pass through. So we got size problems immediately in the very movie we were introduced to this facility. So that's not a good thing. But like I said, I offer up the answer that there are possibly 4 doors positioned around the upper dome of the station, which are probably different sizes to accommodate different starships.
Yeah, because those doors would need to be roughly about 3.3 times wider than the Constitution class refit to even allow the Galaxy class to enter. And it doesn't really make much sense that the station is upsized to actually match the doors as we see in Star Trek 3, because that means that this new TNG station would be about 36 times as voluminous as the one from the movie. So I think I tend to agree with you, Captain. Multiple doors, and to be fair, we only see one side of the station really at any given time, so I think it's perfectly reasonable that there are other alien races that have bigger ships, so why would you build just the Constitution class size door? Although we know that the Excelsior comes out the same door, and they don't. So
yeah. But by that logic, why wouldn't you just make all the doors really big so that all sizes of ships could fit in?
Because you need hull as well. You can't just have make the whole thing one big door that just goes. Or even a holographic door. I don't know, we're just saying things here. Anyway, back to the script.
The station is in a synchronous orbit around Earth, and while commonly referred to as Space Dock, it is also known as Earth Spacedock and even Starbase 1, and has a registry number of NCC 6038. Known as a Class 3 model S-type station, this was constructed at some point prior to the events of Star Trek 3, taking place in 2285, and assumedly after Star Trek the Motion Picture. Perhaps it was actually under construction on the other side of the planet from the dry dock that the Enterprise was launched from, because we never really saw it. Who knows? Because surely construction would have been underway at that point in time to create something this large, you would think. But some sources state it became operational in 2275, so 10 years prior to Star Trek 3. This station was so huge that it would most certainly have been seen from Earth, which would have been very neat to see at some point over the years. But alas, we never got that wish fulfilled. Some of you haven't even considered that until this very point in time, and now want to see it yourselves. I mean, come on, be honest, guys. You can thank Captain Foley for that one. It'd be cool to see it from the planet's surface. I think it'd be neat.
You can imagine on San Francisco from the Academy, just like looking up and like, wow, that's a big space station. I mean, you see the moon, so
maybe it's in geosynchronous orbit above like the Pacific Ocean, so you can't really see it from a continent. Who knows?
This is the largest Starfleet space dock structure in near Earth orbit. Other spaceport structures might have actually been larger, but none were ever built as close to a planetary surface. Space dock orbited Earth just within the Van Allen radiation belts, and the closer proximity to the denser layers of Earth's atmosphere would normally cause the station's orbit to decay. However, it was fitted with massive impulse engines that maintained its orbit. This same design was used for about a dozen other stations throughout the Federation. For example, Starbase 84 and 79, and are both almost indistinguishable from Earth Spacedock. This design layout was referred to as the Ornell class.
It was originally conceived as a military base whose main function was to launch new vessels and undertake various upgrades and repairs to older vessels. It also provided facilities for servicing Starfleet vessels while allowing the crews to take a vacation or shore leave on Earth. Designed to be a permanent base for many ships assigned to the protection of Earth, it could easily provide repair and refit facilities for up to 8 cruiser-sized starships, a few Galaxy-class sized ships, and up to around 24 of Starfleet's lesser-sized vessels. Despite being a vital link in Starfleet's operation, this was not considered an actual starbase. Being intended primarily as a military installation, it was originally designed to be equipped with 40 massive weapon mounts. However, the United Earth government objected to the presence of more weapons in Earth orbit.
a compromise was eventually reached and it was constructed weaponless, relying on high-powered deflectors. Nonetheless, it retained its 40 weapon mounts just in case of an interstellar war emergency. If need be, Starfleet Command could mount weapons and have them fully operational within a week. Another major purpose of Earth Spacedock was its ability to scan all of our solar system. It became one of the central installations for weather watch, debris scan, radiation flux analysis, and of course Starship traffic control for Sector 001. This was made possible by the largest single sensor array and subspace communications equipment known to the Federation. Antennae were placed on the top of Spacedock, which were so sensitive they could detect a meter-sized object in the solar system's cometary halo, at least half a light year away.
In addition to its military and traffic control functions, Spacedock also became a commercial focal point for the Sol Sector, or Sector 001. Starfleet leases office space, warehouse facilities, cargo transporters, and trade arboration for many of the more important commercial corporations. Because of its value as a transshipment point for both passengers and cargo, Spacedock also developed a thriving tourist trade. Its kilometers of wide hallways were filled with shops, vendors, services, and restaurant facilities, catering to a wide variety of aliens and cultures. It would eventually rival the Rigel star system as a source of revenue. What made this remarkable is that the commercial aspect of Starfleet's repair and service facility had developed in a span of less than 5 years. Stardock also housed staterooms for conferences, and of course, the lounge, Club 47, as well as a very large arboretum and park-like recreation area located in the center bulbous section of the station.
You're saying gift shops, so you think I can get a hat that says Earth Spacedock, or my friend bought me this crappy t-shirt. I went to Earth Spacedock and all I got was that.
Yeah. I went to Earth Spacedock and all I got was this crappy t-shirt.
You know, I mean, it's got to be there, a little teddy bear with little... Or a bubble bath. Take out one of the things, it's a bubble bath, and it's just Earth Spacedock. Earth Spacedock also provided the most extensive medical facilities in near-Earth orbit, rivaled only by those of the Lagrangian colonies in their completeness and scope of operation. The gravity of the station was entirely under the control of Starfleet engineers who could alter it as needed at any point or location on board. This is so that hospitals could be provided with any type of environmental settings needed by any particular species, and the ongoing research being conducted here began to provide clues and cures for many unsolvable medical mysteries.
The wide variety of operations conducted at Spacedock made it an ideal training laboratory for Starfleet Academy. Cadets would get their first space experiences there. No matter what branch of service the cadet would eventually enter, the Spacedock provided experiences related to almost every facet of Starfleet operations. Engineering cadets could be exposed to the facility's stabilizing impulse engine system and antimatter reactors. Because Starfleet provided security for the Spacedock, this gave on-the-job training in security and also familiarized the officers-to-be with the many different races that made up the Federation. The facility also provided great teaching grounds for science, medicine, astrogation, as well as administration.
Now, the first time we ever saw the station was during the Enterprise docking sequence in Star Trek 3. So let's briefly discuss the standard docking procedures, the most important and most interesting procedures in all of Star Trek. Approach Control is the main operations centre for the docking procedures and is staffed by both Starfleet and civilian personnel. These highly trained docking crews oversee docking procedures on a round-the-clock schedule. The main docking control room is filled with visual display monitors, which give the most up-to-date status on a spacedock activity.
Large windows looking out onto the docking bays make certain that visual contact with the starships is maintained at all times. This is especially helpful during the docking procedure. There are usually a number of vessels docked in Spacedock at any given time, and therefore it is extremely important for the docking crew to make sure that any incoming starship has a wide and clear berth at which to dock. Approach Control must also make sure that the numerous shuttlecraft and work pods in the general vicinity remain at a safe distance. Clear communication in the command center is critical during these delicate maneuvers.
Approach Control is responsible for giving all clearances to the space doors. In case a starship doesn't follow the correct procedures, Approach Control can issue a yellow alert to the entire spacedock facility. Usually only Approach Control has command over the opening and closing of the space doors, but it has been possible to override the safety feature command from on board a starship. Good old Scotty. Enough said.
Indeed. Starships begin their approach to the spacedock from below the level of the space doors. Once the vessel is in the correct position, facing the closed space doors, the final approach procedure is initiated, usually by the communications officer of the incoming starship. Upon the command of the captain, the communications officer will tell Approach Control that the vessel is ready for docking. The starship then receives confirmation that it's cleared to dock, and the captain will request a lock-on command. This will be confirmed by the starship's helms officer, who will say systems locked.
Once the proper acknowledgements have been made, the space doors open and the Starship commences the final automated docking procedure, travelling over a directional array of evenly spaced lights towards its assigned bay. The ship slowly enters space dock using only its rear thrusters, and each Starship is assigned to a docking bay, which is numbered, for example, Bay 4. It takes about 60 seconds for the ship to pass from the outdoors to the docking bay.
Even before the Starship has docked, the space doors will begin to close again to prevent the space cats from getting out. I had to add that to the script. I forgot I did it, and that was a genuine LOL.
Can you add a space door, space cat flap? But I guess it's too advanced for 20 seconds. 20 seconds.
I guess, yeah, that's a force field for them. I don't know. Anyway, seriously now. As the Starship enters its assigned bay, the captain will call for standby, umbilical, and gravitational support systems. There may be other systems required depending on the class of the Starship. For example, the Galaxy-class Enterprise D engaged its mooring beams and locked them off during the docking procedure. All these systems are critical to the safety of the Starship while in its bay, and the vessel must be secured in its berth.
The captain's calls for these systems is again acknowledged by the Starship's helm officer. At this point, the helm officer can complete the rest of the docking procedure with or without the captain's interaction. The only formality that remains is for the incoming captain to request permission to come aboard. This usually happens at the airlock doors, which connect the ship to the space dock through a long enclosed gangway.
Once the captain receives permission, the docking procedure is then complete, and all necessary repairs and other orders of the day can be carried out. Much pedestrian activity will take place as crew members exit the vessel via the gangways. The departure of the Starship from space dock is effectively the same procedure, but only in reverse. Depending upon the confining space within the space dock, a Starship can either back out or turn around and leave facing forward. The vessel cannot initiate warp drive, obviously, or impulse engines until safely outside of space dock, despite the fact that Kirk orders full impulse when leaving space dock in Star Trek VI, but that's because he's Kirk and he's just showing off because it's like his final hurrah. And of course, Captain Styles does order 1/4 impulse speed upon pursuing the Enterprise in Star Trek III, but again, I think this was due in large part to the situation and needing to catch the Enterprise. So no real rule breaking going on in those cases, at least. I don't
Rule
think.
bending, perhaps.
Slap on the wrist kind of offenses there.
Okay, so it's now time for some Star Trek Online information. Now, by 2409, Space Dock served as the central hub for Starfleet Command and was under the command of Admiral Jarrell Quinn with Akira Sulu as second in command. It was briefly a completely different design before Q Jr. Restored it to the classic look. In 2410, Earth Spacedock was heavily damaged during the Undine, or Species 8472's assault on both Earth and Kronos. It received a refit sometime after the incident, but the station was attacked again as part of the Iconians' final assault on the Alliance. And after that battle, and after the Iconian War had ended, the station was rebuilt and refitted yet again. Sure takes a bit of a butt kicking in Star Trek Online, doesn't it?
Kind of makes them rethink their empty weapons mounts that they, didn't want to attach weapons to initially.
Quantums everywhere. Quantums.
Yeah.
That's my. If I was Admiral, quantums.
Anyway, let's move on to some behind-the-scenes info on this station. In one early concept from ILM, the facility had a registry number of NC7011S. This design was designed by David Carson and Nilo Rodas. Spacedock
was imagined at having a height of over 3 miles. At that size, as Stu has mentioned earlier, it could be easily visible from the surface of Earth.
Initial concept for the station had it actually rotating while in orbit.
A large 30-foot miniature was constructed to represent the Spacedock interior. It was very elaborate with working doors and a lot of neon lights.
Although windows providing a view of Spacedock's interior docking bay appear only in Star Trek III, they were also originally intended to be seen in Star Trek IV, with a cheering audience gathered by them to celebrate Kirk and crew.
But it was not made clear on screen whether the facility featured in the episode Non Sequitur was intended to be the same Spacedock as seen in the movies. The only view of the station in the Star Trek Voyager episode is a set of doors, and there is a stock footage of the Dyson Sphere used for relics, so not sure on that one.
Kind of an odd choice, actually. Also, Starbase One actually makes an appearance in J.J. Abrams' 2009 Star Trek movie. Well, sort of. When Kirk and crew first go up by shuttle to see the Enterprise, the station that all the ships are attached to is actually supposed to be Starbase One. Now, to be fair, this is the TOS era, so it could just be that the station that we know it isn't constructed yet. As in our timeline, it was likely created around the motion picture era, so who knows.
And it'd be interesting to have a mission briefing or something on that version of the station as well. Okay, so let's move on to the discussion part of the show. I really like this design, and it's always stood out to me as one of the greatest space station designs in sci-fi. I really wish Eaglemoss would go ahead and make a model of this thing. Come on, guys. Anyway, it's relatively simple in design, very functional, and maintains those Star Trek design cues by having an almost saucer-like top part. I love the internal space, and all the shots we get to see inside it are done so well throughout these movies. And then seeing the set, the miniature used for it, I mean, that is really, really amazing. I would love to have seen more of her, but if I'm honest, I'm not sure I'd have liked what I'd have seen if they'd really done more. I mean, would it look like a port of some kind, like DS9 or Babylon 5? Would it just be generic corridors and rooms? I don't know. I love everything about it, really, and I like everything I've seen. I would like to leave the rest to my imagination, I think, because it works better. Yeah, I love the design. I think it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. I like your point there about just leaving it up to your imagination, because you can come up with so much better things than to be locked into what they've established. I love the way this thing looks. I think it'd be fantastic to be able to look up from Earth and see this thing in the sky. They really should have highlighted that at some point during one of the series. I mean, even when Kim went back to Earth during Voyager, that one episode, it just to be looked up kind of thing. It has a very Star Trek feel to it, and it definitely fits in the universe that it was created for. So that's actually still one of my favorite scenes in all of Trek, to see the Enterprise coming in and dock in there. It's really awesome. Plus, the sheer size and scale is just something that I really enjoy. It's got a nice color as well, and such nice clean lines. Very aesthetic and great to look at. And as a little bonus, I don't know if you guys realized it, but our approach control officer at the beginning of this episode was actually the great and almighty Doug Drexler.
We like little cameos at Trekyards, don't we? But what I don't like, I don't like that they made such a huge issue size-wise when it came to the Galaxy class entering Spacedock. I've read they want to really make a splash for episode. Seeing it come back to Earth, and rather than having no budget to do anything, they used stock footage, and that was a great way of doing it. And they thought no one would notice, right? Well, no. And for years, I thought it was just one of those things you just had to ignore, one of those continuity things. But I absolutely love the idea of different doors. I hadn't thought of that before starting Trekyards. We've discussed this previously. It's like, yes, different doors, obviously. I mean, why wouldn't you have multiple varieties? I mean, obviously. There really isn't much I don't like about the design. Just that big continuity thing and not seeing it enough. I don't really agree with no weapons. If this is Starfleet's last line of defense, I mean, imagine if this was in First Contact and the cube was attacking and the E came in, but Spacedock was holding its own, firing torpedoes. I mean, how incredible could that have looked? Because that's what... Come on, the other side of the Earth, it's really not... It should be there somewhere. But anyway, there's not much I don't like. But seriously, guys, arm it with as many photons, even more photon torpedoes, than we saw in DS9. That's my closing thought. Great design.
Great. Well, to be honest, I never really gave this station too much thought above those upper docking bays until actually researching this episode. I never even really considered what else was in there. But what I don't like would have to be any real lack of weapons, like you said. It's in Earth orbit. I'm sure they have phaser platforms and other defenses around there, because it did say they didn't want any more in Earth's orbit. So that kind of makes sense in a way if there are other defenses, and there should be. But this is literally Earth's last line of defense, as you said. It should be able to kick ass if need be. Besides that, there isn't much that I don't like, except, as we've said, with other ships and such, the fact that we didn't see more of it on screen. It was cool to see it in TNG, and yeah, I wish people wouldn't have overthought that. It's a different door size. How hard is that, guys? We kind of got a taste for the day-to-day activities aboard a station with Deep Space Nine, but that was such a small station. So the stories that could take place on this would be great, and I think it would be really cool to see those in a novel form or something. Just the adventures on, Spacedock.
I think you've heard it here first, folks. The new 2017 show is about a Spacedock docking officer and his day-to-day life getting ships docked. 2017.
Ensign Drexler, yeah.
Demoted him. Although I want to bring something up briefly. So you say, well, we both said no weapons, although this is a huge station, and as we said in the actual script, big defensive shields. You know, this thing is surely designed to take on basically everything and anything. So imagine if, well, think Die Hard. A small team got in, took over, and they turned the weapon platforms on Earth. I mean, you could obliterate Earth. And how many ships would it take to just get through the shields of this thing? That's a hell of a risk. At least when you have small platforms, weapon platforms, they're each individually take-outable. But this entire station, I mean, would you want quantum launchers just up there? It depends how secure they are.
They could be pummeling Earth with their own space dock. So to not have weapons actually kind of makes sense at a time. Yeah.
Okay, and that is it for this episode, guys. Shore leave is over, so let's reboard and get underway for another new episode next week. So please, guys, visit our Patreon page and support the show if you want regularly, or if you want to do a one-time donation, please go over to www.trekyards.com, as anything you can help with, we are so very grateful for you all. And just share this video, and that's all thanks me sort of thing. To anyone you think would watch it, and that would be great.
Yes, guys, thanks for watching. As always, we hope you enjoyed yourself. If you have any info on the station, and I'm sure you do, as you would like to share with everyone out there watching, please put it in the comments below. And remember, be nice. There's going to be conflicting information because there's different sources for this stuff. So this station was seen so little on screen that there's just a lot of varying facts and figures out there. And we do want to hear them all. So please share away and comment. Until next time, guys, I'm Captain Foley.
And I am Commander Cockins.
We'll see you all soon. All moorings clear. Let's get underway. Full impulse power.
Yeah, Captain, may I remind you that regulations specifically say thrusters only while in space dock.
Samuel. Fine. We're still going to do 1/4 impulse speed. Engage.
Bye, guys.